So what better way to start off your Sunday? By going to church. And by church, I mean, we're about to bless up this Honda right here. We're gonna be working on suspension today. That fresh rear end. So quick test drive, I recommend it. All right, y'all, we are back with yet another video. As you guys can see, we're not at our usual location. We're at our boy Alex's shop. So what we got for today, we're gonna be working on his Honda, 99 Honda Civic. You might have seen him in the previous videos. He had an Eclipse. He now picked up a Honda. We are gonna be dropping it on coilovers and adjusting his camber. Okay, so right now we're unloading the goods. As you guys can see, shipments came from Japan. Like I said, we're gonna be adjusting camber. And then in here, we got the coilovers. One of his rear ones. And then I believe he is sponsored now. They gave you sponsorship stickers, a lanyard. If you're not messing with Yonaka, you're not doing it right. As well as a sponsored t-shirt for the man himself. Okay, he says, oh shoot, a beanie too, bro. Damn. I'm gonna have to start tapping in with them. There's some space there, so we have to fill it up. That's why we're gonna do coilovers on it. The front, we're gonna install the fenders and then figure out how much camber we're gonna be running. Quick review on the Truharts. These are their front upper control arms. And how these work is you basically adjust the nuts on here, you loosen them, and then you adjust the top plate. That's the front. Now these are the back. These go on the bottom section of the car. Not to mention a full brace for the rear. We're starting on the rear. First things first, jack it up, loosen your lug nuts, grab a jack stand, because safety is always prioritized. All right, so to remove the bottom part of the strut for the stock suspension, you're gonna need a 14mm as well as a 19 to take out the back nut. Once that bolt is off, we're gonna go back and through the trunk to address the top bolts holding in the rear strut. All right, now for the top bolts, what you're gonna do is get a 14mm. And as you guys can see, it's two top bolts holding up the rear strut. You can get access to either through the trunk or through the back seats. Once the top bolts are loose, it should free up the whole strut. Since we already have the bottom bolts out, this stock spring should be able to come out. Next things next is we're gonna loosen this 14mm, which will then give us access to drop this lower control arm as well as drop the whole strut from the rear. We're gonna do this on this side and it'll be the same procedure on the opposite side. So 3 bolts, 14mm right here, 14mm right here, and a 14mm right there. 3 bolts to get the bottom section out. 14mm bolts right here. After that, you should be able to remove the actual lower control arm. All right, so as you guys can see, we use a little pry bar. Lower control arm is off, as well as the rear strut. Stock one. These are the aftermarket ones that we'll be replacing and installing right now, straight from Truhart. Quality in their work. Rear struts. Let me see the coilovers real quick. Sheesh. All right, let's get it. Apart from the rear control arms and the coilovers, we also have the rear brace. Now this is a reinforcement piece that you guys typically run on the Hondas. I'm not gonna lie, from the rear view, it looks amazing. We're gonna mock it up, install that first, following the lower control arms and then the actual coilover install. So this car is getting a full rear end transformation. All right, so for the rear brace, the 2 long bolts are going to be the ones that are gonna be at the bottom, which connect the brace to the actual lower control arm. The 4 medium-sized ones are actually gonna be the ones that hold the brace to the actual chassis of the car. All right, so the lower control arm is on. We slid the bolts in right here. Next thing we gotta do is actually get the coilover, install it, slide it through the top. Once up top, he's gonna bolt it in, and then we're gonna adjust it accordingly and line everything up. So as you guys can see, Alex is from the inside, he's bolting it down right now. Next things next is to actually now line up the bottom part of the coilover to the lower control arm, bolt that in. And as you guys can see, when you're working with coilovers, you have the freedom and liberty of adjusting accordingly. We're not trying to scrape too hard, but we are trying to acquire that flush fitment, if you know what I mean. Rears should be done rather shortly. Pretty quick install, not gonna lie. Okay, so let's jump right into it. For the rear stabilizing bar, It's gonna be 3 bolts that hold it in place. It's gonna be the long one, which goes all the way through and connects to the lower control arm, 14mm, followed by these 2 bolts up here that are gonna be bolted onto the actual subframe of the car. 3 bolts on this side, 3 bolts on that side. After that, the stabilizing bar is in place and sturdy. So we then tighten up these 2 bolts. We already got the top bolts tightened up and torqued to spec for the top hats of the coilovers. Bolts are bolted on and all torqued to spec as well. It's looking pretty nice from the rear view. That fresh rear end, clean. All right, quick update. So the rear suspension is on. Rear coilovers, lower control arms, as well as the aluminum brace. Only thing left to do now is put the wheels on, lower the rear, and then we adjust the front. So the front's also gonna be getting coilovers, as well as the upper control arms for adjusting camber. So the front is gonna be receiving these Truhart upper control arms. So let me give you guys a quick rundown on the rear suspension setup. So working from the driver's side, we have the coilover adjusted and everything. We have the lower control arm, Truhart, polished, as well as the rear reinforcement bar from Truhart. Now this component here is very known in the Honda community, as many tuners, like I like to refer to them as, they run this part. So the rear stabilizing bar not only adds stability to the rear, it's also aesthetically pleasing in my point of view. We work our way to the right. As you can see on the right side, we have the lower control arm, as well as the coilover, which is adjusted as well. My boy also has a Tome exhaust. Nah, I'm just kidding. But he's also running a muffler in the rear. So what benefits do these parts have? Homeboy wanted to go for a more clean, flush look. Reason for the coilovers is he wanted to lower the car. Reason for the lower control arm is better stability, as well as some camber in the rear. And the stability bar, well, it adds aesthetics. Overall, when you're working on your car, you want the best. He's definitely running with that. We're gonna keep you guys in the loop and go from there. I've always liked the Fender Delete look. It gives it that type of like rat rod look, but also like Mad Max Fury type vibes. Cause honestly, you can run like some mad camber, some maxed out tire setup without the worry of having to like mess up your fenders. We did stiffen up the suspension to the max so we can live that static life, if you know what I mean. You're gonna be bouncing on the freeway, but at the end of the day, it's the life we choose to live. And with that being said, you know, like at the end of the day, it's your car, it's your build. Build the car the way you want it to be built. Build the car that's gonna put a smile on your face when you're driving it. Now, by no means do I mean like don't take constructive criticism. Obviously, people's opinions do matter at times. Not always. If they're guiding you in the right direction, by all means, feel me? But if you like something, go for it. I mean, I don't see why not. Only thing left now, slap on the wheels, lower it, and see if we have to make any final adjustments. So, let's get it on. So wheel is on now. Damn, that thing's about to be tucking. Looks good from the top, looks even better from the bottom. I think there's about 2 fingers, 2.5, a solid finger. There was about 3.5 to 4 fingers prior to the install on the rear. But as you guys know, once we lower it, it should tuck quite a bit. Both wheels are on now, so only thing left to do is just lower the rear end and see what it's looking like. All right, go ahead, bro, lower that thing. All right, so that's current fitment. We are gonna need to adjust it just because, yeah, we got some play there. If you guys know, then you guys know. Peluchin just pulled up with his new whip. You guys remember his black Honda? He recently picked up an SI. Tuners pulled up. Yeah, sure. Sheesh. VTEC, yeah. SI boys now. Congratulations, Peluchin.
Thank you.
That new.
That new.
So we actually decided to leave the rear as is, just because the springs are gonna set in. They are brand new.
La tóxica, he's calling me right now.
Pal blog. So yeah, now we're gonna do the fronts. Henry the expert pulled up too.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna raise it, jack stands, and same ordeal on the front. All right, car is up now. Tuner. Y'all see it? Y'all can't see the turbo right now. It's hidden. It's a sleeper build. Okay, so you guys know that we're sponsored. They gave us the decals. They gave us the lanyards. And they gave us the merch. What you got there?
We got it wrapped.
Let them know, let them know. Sheesh, Yonaka Motorsport.
Lo, see?
So these right here are our upper, or I wouldn't say upper, but our front coilovers. All right, let's check them out real quick. First one. Pretty fire. So we'll be swapping out those for these right here. True beauty. All right, so for the bottom, 17 millimeter right here. It's gonna be another 17 millimeter right there. Two 17 millimeters on the top hats right there, and then a 14 millimeter to release the actual lower or upper control arm. So two 14s and three 17s. This bottom one's already loose, so only thing to do now is work on the top. So from the top, as you guys can see, two 17s right here, and then this 14 millimeter, which is holding the upper control arm, and there's another one tucked in around here. The second one is right here. As you guys can see, here it is. So two 14 millimeters, two 17 millimeters, and then the 17 millimeter down here. Take that bolt out, which is right there. Once you get that one for the bottom out, we're good to lower the whole assembly down and then pop the spring out. All right, here we go. Sheesh. And then everything just comes out all together. Old assembly out. Only thing left is to loosen this bolt to take the top control arm off and then put the new Truhart in, followed by the new coilover. All right, so the 17 millimeter for the top control arm is out now. All you really need to do now is just smack that bolt right there with a hammer. Honestly, just pop out. Just like that. Good help around here. Shout out to the boys. Then we just take the spring out. Two-man job at sometimes. There we go. Out with the old. We will be needing this bottom part. As I was saying, we are gonna need the lower part of the stock coilover. As you guys can see, this is the new one. It doesn't have the bottom fork, which is provided in the stock one. It's a 14 millimeter. You're gonna take it off, transfer it over to the new one. After that, it's really just plug and play. So once you pull it off, this then transfers over to this one. We'll assemble it right now. Literally just slides in, then you slide the 14 millimeter right there, like so, tighten it to spec, and the new coilover is ready to go. So these are the upper control arms. They are marked left and right. Left is for the driver's side. What you do is you get an Allen key, and we're gonna adjust this plate all the way to the right to get that negative camber and that flush fitment type look. Let me get an Allen key and I'll show you guys. All right, so you're gonna get the Allen key. You're gonna loosen it, all four. Once they're loose, you're then gonna slide it to the left. Negative camber to the left, positive to the right. So we're gonna get all the way, and then you're just gonna tighten it, like so. Installing the upper control arm, slides in. Might have to play around with it a little bit, but it should just slide in. And then you slide the pin in. Once that is in, you grab your 17 millimeter bolt. 17 millimeter bolt, threads on. Once that's on, we just tighten up the top. There is the 17 millimeter long bolt that is going to go through the bottom section of the actual coilover. Bolt slides right in. After that, just tighten to spec, torque it. Bottom section's done. So 17 millimeter. Then we're going to tighten the 14 millimeter right here. These two 14 millimeter bolts for the upper control arm. It's two of them, one on the left side of the strut tower, and there's one on the inner side. It's a little more hard to get to, but once you tighten these down, and then the 17 millimeters for the top hats on the coilovers, we're pretty much done. We can adjust the coilover after that, lower the car, and the car should be pretty much done. The last thing you need to do is just slide the cotter pin into the upper control arm, and then with some pliers, you simply just bend it to place. Top bolts are on, coilovers are adjusted, cotter pin is in, one step closer. Oh, and then the fender too, I forgot. Sheesh. El fender, we're missing a fender. But apart from that, the suspension's all ready, it's all dialed in. Now we can officially put the fender back on. First bolt's on to hold on the fender. Car's coming along. Build is coming along. Second one on. So it's 3 on top. There's one in here. We're gonna have to open the door to get to that one. And there's one down here, holding this together, and then one under here. Okay, so the wheel's on, coilover is on, control arm, upper control arm is on. Time to lower it. See what we're sitting at with fitment. Sheesh, we gotta lower it more. Yeah. But as you guys can see, the car is coming along quite well now with the fender on and everything. Looking clean. We lowered it to the max. Now we can lower the car, see where it sits. I mean, it's tucking. There is some clearance. We also gotta let the coilovers kind of like sit. It's static for sure. What do you think, Peluchin?
Hey, pussy.
Oh, we called you out, bro. So there you guys have it. Install is complete. Front coilovers are on, rear coilovers are on. Full rear suspension. Time to go test drive it. Three-wheeling. Fitment's on point. Yeah, sure. So quick test drive. Shout out to Alex for letting me drive this. We're gonna see what this is about. We're live in the Honda right now, the static Honda. We're driving static, boys. The clutch feels smooth. Gears are chilling. I'm not gonna lie, these Hondas are fun. These Hondas are fun. It does feel weird driving this low to the ground though. You get used to it though. It's comfortable though. I could daily this. I recommend one if you're looking into one, or if you're looking on lowering your car. Look no further. Slam it to the ground, full send. I recommend it. So we just finished test driving the car. Car feels smooth. It does need an alignment. First thing you want to do after lowering a car and running some camber is getting an alignment. Other than that, car runs smooth, looks beautiful rolling. Personally, I think it looks amazing. Hopefully we can get some, you know, shots in the future or future videos on the car. Other than that, like always, like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, peace. Keep it authentic, y'all.